Hey, everybody. My name is Harold Schmitz, and I'm really pleased to be here and want to thank to provide the opening remarks here for day two. It's a real privilege and a real honor to do so for something entitled Food for Fairness Summit, which is something I've really been passionate about and contributing to in different ways throughout my career. So I really appreciate the opportunity to say a few words. So I want to thank Yolo Food Bank and for really being the catalytic force and the driving force that made this much needed and very timely event happen, both at a local level as well as at a national level, and also Artificial Intelligence Institute for Next Gen Food Systems and the Innovation Institute for Food and Health, both at UC Davis, for helping to push this agenda along as well and the contributions they're making. So there's three great questions that this summit is posing, and I apologize. So my eyes are going to dart off to the side here. I don't want that to be distracting to viewers, but I actually have real speaker notes that are handwritten on paper. So I'm not looking at it on the screen actually. So this is the real deal. We're keeping it real. So anyway, there's three great questions that are posed, I think, by YFB and the group who's putting on the summit here. The first one is, what is an equitable and sustainable local food system? And that's quite a question. Second question is, how can it be achieved? And then the third question is, why does our collective well-being, locally, nationally, globally, depend on achieving this and doing so urgently? So three great questions. I'm going to focus on the how question. I'm a how person. My background, I was chief science officer at Mars for many years, Mars Incorporated, a large global multinational food business. I'm a co-founder and general partner in a venture capital fund, and also work at the Graduate School of Management as a senior scholar there. And all of these, sort of things coalesce and converge on the how of transformative innovation. And I think really these three questions and questions number one and two about what is an equitable food system, et cetera, and also how do we make this happen urgently? Those converge around a need for transformational innovation. So then I guess the next thing that I want to say is two key themes here. One is this transformational innovation piece. So the questions that are posed by this summit and the questions that we face as a nation and around the world from a food for fairness perspective, these are urgent questions, and they actually require a significant change for what sort of the grid or the legacy sector would be known when you think about food, health, healthcare. There's really disruptive change, transformational change, not just incremental change that needs to happen. I think the second really key theme is that we need to think nationally in the context of the food bank sort of construct and what can happen and what this collection of individuals who's at this summit collectively can do. And we need to act locally, though. So two key themes: transformational innovation, number one, and number two is we need to think nationally and we need to act locally. And I can't think of a better place to act locally. And so I'm going to use history as an example, maybe that could inspire us in the Davis context. During the latter part of the 19th century, specifically during the 1860s, Abraham Lincoln, arguably the greatest innovator of the food and agriculture system. So nationally, there was a terrible civil war that was happening, and that was reshaping, what we would think about from a diversity, inclusion, and equity landscape, obviously addressing, the evil of slavery. Another thing that Abraham Lincoln did during that time was actually the Transcontinental Railroad. That was signed into law, and eventually transportation and distribution for the food and agriculture system. And the population nationally and globally was tectonically, shifted. And thirdly, of course, the land grant university concept was born and signed into law. And great universities in the food and agriculture space in every state were created, and that tectonically changed. And I use that word very specifically, the concept of food security. All of a sudden, science was and research, technology, application, extension, teaching were brought forward, and that changed everything from a food security perspective at a national level. So that's the national perspective. At the local perspective with Davis, as it was known then, Davisville, it actually became a part of, through actions of certain citizens, became a stop on the transcontinental route. Obviously, the original terminus on the western side was Sacramento, but it extended further west into the Bay Area, and Davisville actually was part of that. And we're reminded of that every day by the trains that rumble through here, both freight and passenger. And I have my railroad spike here at my desk to remind me, actually. And then, so that's a very local thing that has happened here, and we participated in that. Another local thing is UC Davis as an incredible part of the land grant university known as the University of California. And Gary, Chancellor May, yesterday gave a great set of opening remarks and talking about how at a local level, University of California, via its Davis campus, has had an opportunity to transform the world of food and agriculture globally. So next, comment that I want to make is that I believe, similar to, and this is a pretty heavy statement, but I think it's true, and I think this summit actually can capture that spirit. It's part of why I'm so excited about it, and all the talks and panels that are happening. I believe that this decade of 2020 to 2030 can be as impactful as that period during the 1860s, 70s, and 80s were in terms of food and ag and the transformation at a local and national and global level, and addressing today's grand challenges and urgencies. And very quickly to go through why I believe that can happen is our understanding of metabolic health. So the factors that in food and nutrition factors that influence obesity, diabetes, any health condition we can think of, and some of these diseases of abundance, as well as malnutrition that still occur locally as well as nationally. We now have new tools of science to address those that are unprecedented in our history. Secondly, digital health and opportunities for better decision making, where metabolic health and sustainable food and how to do that are represented by UC Davis's Innovation Institute for Food and Health. This new concept of the digital era and utilizing data from healthcare systems as well as our everyday lives, wearables, handheld devices, you name it, being able to understand our digital space, that is transformative in a tectonic way as well. And of course, the AI Institute for Next Gen Food Systems represents that. And then, we have come a long way since the Civil War in the 1860s. There's still a long way to go, but we do have a society that represents diversity, inclusion, equity in a way that allows all players to participate at the innovation table. And that actually enables much better innovation. It's one of the key things I learned in industry, in venture capital, and also working with the School of Management at Davis and across campus is the more inclusive one is in terms of folks around the table, the better the innovation outcome is going to be. So, we have these platforms of change that can enable transformational innovation. So, I guess the how here to finish off this talk is Gary laid out, or this opening, and I want to finish with a comment on how, as well as a challenge for the summit. The how, as Chancellor May talked about yesterday, it is amazing what Yolo Food Bank has done in terms of bringing a diversity of people to this table for these 3 days. And so that's the necessary sort of multidisciplinary representation that we need to actually do something. I would also say that we actually have a chance to act locally that is actually unique. And I use that word very specifically, genuinely unique in the country. We have Yolo County and all the people that are attending this summit, folks like Yolo Food Bank. We have University of California, Davis. We have AIFS Institute, IIFH. We have these incredible tools. We actually have the tools to take local action in a transformative innovation way, such that we can connect farm to fork to health outcomes and actually improve health as well as measure health outcomes in ways that have never been done before. We can do it locally and we can translate it nationally. And so I'll close by saying that, if you bring together YFB, Yolo Food Bank, Innovation Institute for Food and Health, AI Institute for Next Gen Food Systems, Yolo County, what's happening in Woodland, all the innovation there, what's happening in the Davis community, I don't understand how we cannot put forward by the end of this summit some thoughts on activities and projects that we could measure and hopefully talk about next year, if there's going to be a summit next year, or working groups, or whatever Yolo Food Bank has in mind. But next time groups that are assembled at this summit get together, during a 3, 6, 9, 12-month sort of quarterly cycle, I believe that there are measurable, specific, transformative innovation outcomes with respect to food for security and fairness and equity that improve metabolic health, cognitive health, quality of life, economic productivity, all of those things. And we have the unique array of partnerships to make that happen. So my challenge for this summit is that I hope we'll come up with some measurable opportunities that we can actually hold ourselves accountable for, and indeed, make a lot of progress in terms of food for fairness. So thank you again for an opportunity to talk with you, and I'm really looking forward to continuing to watch the summit for the next few days. Thank you.